With the Iowa Lottery's new Millionaire for Life game, you could win $1 million a year for life. That could make you a My Dream Job is No Job-ionaire, a front row tickets to every show-yonaire, a hire a personal glam squad for you and your bestie-yonaire.
Yep, a little further.
Or just to never run out of your favorite pickles-yonaire. With Millionaire for Life from the Iowa Lottery,
And these.
you can change your life for life. Play today.
Grammy-nominated country artist Tyler Childers presents Snipe Hunt, performing at KC Center July 15th with special guest Wednesday. Get tickets now at highvtix.com.
Chad Leistikow, Scott Dochterman, the two biggest Hawkeye and Big Ten beat writers, together on one show. Game Day Men's Health proudly presents Legends and Listeners, best enjoyed with an easy Eddie from Big Grove Brewery. This is Legends and Listeners, exclusively on Iowa Everywhere.
Hey, Hawkeye fans, Big Ten fans, and Iowans everywhere. Lucky you on this St. Patrick's Day, a live Tuesday lunchtime special of Legends and Listeners, presented as always by Game Day Men's Health. Chad Leistikow here of the Des Moines Register for Iowa Everywhere. And the great thing about the Channel Seed Studios, which you're starting to hear, is that they are mobile. And today they find the Athletics' Scott Dochterman in the throes of one of our sponsors today. Why don't you tell us where you are, Scott, and welcome.
Thanks, Chad, for having me. And first, I just want to say I'm at Big Grove in Cedar Rapids, and it's St. Patrick's Day. As we know, there's a St. Patrick's Day parade coming up in a couple of hours here on this the coldest St. Patrick's Day I can ever remember. And so, yes, I'm at the Big Grove in Cedar Rapids, right here in the Kingston Yard section of downtown. And it's starting to fill up a little bit here, a lot of green beer flowing. And I decided to go ahead and go with the neighborhood beer today from Big Grove. So it's exciting. I'm glad we can go mobile, Chad. It's always great when we can. And we went to the South one in Iowa City last summer. I figured I'd come north to my old stomping grounds in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
That's right. We are both Cedar Rapids Gazette alums. You were there a lot longer than I was. We never crossed paths there, but always appreciated my time at the Gazette and Cedar Rapids. So thanks for being there. Thanks to Big Grove. Thanks to Game Day Men's Health. We got a lot to unpack on today's Legends and Listeners. Obviously, since our last show, the Big Ten men's basketball tournament concluded. Scott was over there in Chicago. I'm not sure if we're going to talk about that or not, Scott, but we might. I like to poke Scott a little bit and see if I can get him to get riled up about stuff. We'll see if I can a little bit later. But now we have the brackets. That's what everyone wants to talk about. With first four actions starting tonight, I probably won't watch those games, honestly. But the NCAA tournament for me starts Thursday. Iowa men start Friday. Scott, what did you think Sunday night when you saw the Hawkeyes draw? The Hawkeyes a 9 seed against 8th seeded Clemson. Obviously, the 9 was kind of about what we thought Iowa would get. They play 5:50 p.m. on TNT in Tampa, Florida. Scott, what did you make of the draw as you saw it unfold, and what do you make of it since?
Yeah, Chad, I mean, I first looked at it and I thought, okay, they're going to probably be a 9 seed based on some of the teams that lost and kind of the bubble changed things. There was no way I thought that they would fall to a 10. And I thought it was about as good as it could get, frankly. I mean, getting to a 10 seed was a 9 seed to play against Clemson. I thought was worked out really well. Clemson is I think a really good team. They only really have one, I would say, bad loss, and that was to Georgetown really early in the year. But then they also lost one of their best players. They're really key inside threat to an ACL, which is terrible for them. But they're still able to gather and beat North Carolina in the ACC tournament. So I think this is it's a really good matchup. There's a lot of areas where they're comparable, but I also think it's a gettable team. Now, Florida after that is just like we thought. You match up against any of the ones. It's not a good matchup for Iowa, and that's certainly the case if Iowa can get past the first round. But all things told, I thought that they ended up right where they should have been based on the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the first round matchup itself against Clemson, I don't think you could have asked for a better shot. I mean, the Hawkeyes are favored by 2.5 points, like you said. Maybe they got docked a seed line by losing that player, but still, you were in a 7-10, 8-9 matchup either way. It's a team you can beat. It's not a team that poses a mismatch problem. And there were certain teams that I know the Iowa coaches wanted to avoid. One of those being St. Mary's College, that they didn't want to face them. They end up as the 7 in the South, so they're on the bottom side of the bracket. Who knows if they come to meet them in the Elite Eight, great. Then you'd love to meet them. But teams like that, I think in general, kind of the vibe I got from being in the selection show party, if you want to call it that, not like we're partying or anything, just so you know, we're writing and whatever. But was that I think Iowa preferred to maybe face another power conference team from maybe a mid-range power conference team from another power conference, and I think they got that here with Clemson from the ACC. I don't really know how strong the ACC is, Scott, but that was my vibe too from the feeling in the room is like, it's not like, oh, we're going to win this game, but it's like, okay, we can deal with that. We've got, several days to prepare now. Put Ben McCollum and his staff at work. Ben McCollum and his staff, basically the same staff, except for Luke Barnwell, who made it even further than Drake last year. Experienced a first-round game, prepared for it, played outstanding against Missouri, and won that game. So, I mean, I have some confidence going into this game, to be honest.
Yeah, I think this is a team that it's a matchup that if Iowa plays well, Iowa can win. I mean, they're both among the best in their conferences when it comes to points per game on defense. It's because of, primarily with Iowa, it has to do with slower tempo. But there are areas, they're not a real high assist team. They don't hit a lot of threes. Now that their big threat interior is out, unfortunately, Carter Welling, that's really a shame. But that being said, Iowa's not going to feel sorry for them, and they shouldn't. So I think overall that this is the type of opponent that you want to play right away. Brad Brownell is a really good coach. What I remember most about him was when Iowa hired Fran. They also, one day I met Gary and Fred Mims at the Iowa City airport where they took a private plane to Cincinnati when Brad Brownell was at Wright State, and then he ended up going to Clemson. And he's had a really good career. They were in the Elite Eight 2 years ago. Their key players were contributors in that season, but not necessarily stars. I just think, and the ACC is a league similar to the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten is stronger at the top, and meaning like teams 2 through whatever, as opposed to the ACC. Number 1 and Duke is fantastic, but I think that the depth at the top of the Big Ten is better, but Clemson is a really good opponent. They've played well for the most part of this year. Some of their better wins, North Carolina, Louisville, Miami, SMU, and Georgia, they all got in the tournament. Their only one loss, as I mentioned, was Georgetown, and that was non-conference early in the season. That's the only team that had a losing record. Iowa lost to 3 teams with losing records, Maryland, Penn State, and Minnesota, and I would say Maryland and Penn State were bad losses. So I think overall, it's about as good as you can get and hope for. And then the second round, like I said, if you could have played a 2, you would have felt a lot better than a 1. And Florida is a team that will be an incredible challenge for Iowa. But that said, when you've got a point guard or a guard as good as Bennett Sturtz, you feel like you still have at least a puncher's chance to compete in those games.
Yeah, and looking at the loss of Welling, who was 6'11", 240. I mean, that is a notable loss. I want to borrow some coverage from my friend Tyler Tashman, who kind of made the comparison of when Iowa faced Ohio State without its big man in Iowa City. The Hawkeyes fared really well. The Hawkeyes won that 74-57, and then they turn around. And then 7-footer Christoph Tilley is back for the Buckeyes in the Big Ten tournament. And what a difference that made. I mean, the Buckeyes could hardly miss from 2-point range in that game, and the Hawkeyes lose that game. despite being okay offensively, even though McCollum said they were a train wreck, they still had shot about 50%, right? So it makes a difference. That one big man does make a difference. But let's talk about the rest of the bracket, I guess, the rest of the South. You mentioned Florida, obviously. I mean, this is the time of year, Scott, when what matters is can you make a run? And obviously Florida, you're always going to have to beat a good team, almost always, if you're going to make a run. So why not catch them early is kind of my point of view. And so if you look at, hey, could this team make a magical run? Like, I don't discount it. I mean, you got to pull one upset at some point, and that would be the one. But if you get past that, Scott, I don't mind Nebraska is the 4 seed there. And now Houston at the very bottom. If it is Houston, it's Houston. But Illinois could come out of the bottom as the 3 seed as well, which would be a fun, interesting matchup. So I don't know. In general, I felt like the South draw, especially if you look at that top half, isn't that bad. If you're playing Nebraska to get to the Elite Eight, that'd be pretty crazy. And winnable.
Yeah.
We've seen them win it.
Right. And can you imagine playing Illinois to go to the Final Four? That would,
bring out the athletic rivalry story again.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, you should, somebody should bring Bruce Pearl on set at that and see what happens. Because we even have reporters who are, writing columns still hating on him. But, when you look at Florida, they lost to a lot of really, really good teams. Arizona, Duke, UConn, Auburn, TCU, Mizzou, and Vanderbilt, which I think the latter two, the Mizzou kind of lucked into the tournament. I didn't think they had a resume that was worthwhile. But and when you start looking closer at their wins, not quite as impressive. I mean, they beat Miami, who's in the field, Kentucky 3 times. Kentucky's a decent team. I wouldn't say anything. Georgia twice. They're 26-7. They won the SEC, with a 16-2 record, but they got slaughtered by Vanderbilt in the SEC semifinals. Now, sometimes you take tournaments with a grain of salt. You just say, well, that's just the way it goes. But, this is a team that turned over a lot of pieces from last year's national championship team. And Thomas Haw is an All-American caliber guy. I mean, he's going to be on the second or third team for just about every list. 17 points, 6.5 rebounds per game. But, they score a lot, high-tempo team. They are really good in just about every key area, but they are turnover prone. Their assisted turnover ratio is below 0. It's minus 0.8. So if Iowa, which gets a lot of steals, plays really aggressive defense, particularly on the perimeter, if you can force some mistakes, get on a run, get Bennett starts cooking, and then finally and mitigate, maybe get some foul issues or something like that, you could get into a close game. And if you're in Tampa and it's a 2-possession, 1-possession game in the inside of 8 minutes, then the pressure flips over to the Florida Gators in that situation. Then Florida is going, we're supposed to win. We're the number 1 seed. We're in Tampa. We're all this. And Iowa can say, hey, all these players that were at Northwest Missouri State have won games. They were at Drake. They won games. At Iowa, they played a really difficult, challenging schedule. That comes into play. But you got to get to that point. And you got to beat Clemson, too. So all that being said, advantageous, maybe. But, if you can win your first game, that's a huge marker for the season. You've kind of accomplished everything that was you'd think possible. If you get past that, it's not just gravy. It's like getting a gift certificate or something.
Regarding that Florida matchup, I mean, certainly, as you mentioned at the top, playing a 1 seed at any point is going to be very, very difficult. No one's going to pick that in their brackets. The strength of Florida is definitely the interior play, and that is something that Iowa does not match up well against. The Gators, 58% from 2-point range this year, Scott. Also, second in the country in offensive rebound percentage, which this is kind of a crazy stat, a scary stat if you're the Hawkeyes. 43.1% they get the offensive rebound. So this is a team that will crash the boards, and that's a problem for the Hawkeyes. That's, they just don't have the size unless they're going to throw Trevor Urach in there, surprisingly. So that's going to be a challenge. But let's say on the flip side, could Iowa pull the upset? And again, we don't have a legends and listeners before Iowa plays a potential second-round game, so that's why we're talking about it now. Florida's only a 30.8% team from three. That ranks 324th in the country among Division I teams. So don't shoot the three great. And as you mentioned, they do not force a ton of turnovers. Their turnover rate is 262nd in the country defensively. And that's been a big problem for the Hawkeyes of late, is just a lot of little careless, stupid fouls, turnovers, also careless fouls. But also, like, that's the stuff when we talked to McCollum on Sunday night over at Carver's, like, that's the stuff that they got to clean up. It's just those little things. Protect them. It's a Kirk Ferentz game plan this weekend, Scott. Protect the football, play defense, and just make them beat you with their weakness, which to me would be shooting the three if you can get to that point. So I do see a path, honestly. I know it's not a great matchup, but I do see a path because what do they have, Scott? What do the Hawkeyes have? A point guard that they have not had in the NCAA tournament since, Woolridge?
Yeah.
And so, you're going way back here where you really felt good about your point guard. So, really, really good. Not disparaging Bohannon, Gazelle, any of those guys, but like Sturtz is Bohannon, Gazelle didn't make the NBA. Sturtz is an NBA player.
Yeah, I think I'm there with you on that. No question about it. And when we start talking about Andre Woolridge, for me and you, it's like we remember him, but that was 30 years ago. And that makes me sad as a human being because that was a long time ago and we were in college at that time, or roughly thereabouts. It was just, but the other thing that really makes me nervous about this for Iowa is rebounding margin. Iowa, is rebounding margin 0.91 and they are 14.5. So you mentioned about offensive rebounding percentage. You're going to have to force bad shots and be outstanding positioning to just mitigate it. You're not going to win that battle. They're going to win that battle. You just got to make sure that you force them to take bad enough shots or force enough turnovers that you
right.
could.
That's the bigger thing.
Yeah. And that's where Iowa has been really good as far as steals go. They're second in the Big Ten at 7 a game. So if you can force mistakes, take advantage of them, they have to convert them into points and, kick the field goal, go up by 2 in the halftime, just things like that. If you could, that's the path they have to go down. They can't afford a 10-0 run against them. No. And you're going to have to slow ball it. And it's all about winning. It's not really about styles. They don't have a winning style that will get them beat other than let Bennett Sturtz do everything they want him to do. So, but that being said, Clemson's not an easy out either.
No.
And Brad Brownell is a really good coach. R.J. Godfrey, was a really good player in the ACC. Averaged about 12 points, 5.5 rebounds a game. Good at every single area. And he's a combo guard. He's 6'7", 240, so he's more of a combo forward, I should say. Does it all for them. And then they have a couple of transfers that really worked well. Justin Porter and Nick Davidson has been good. And so they've really built that roster in the right way. And again, Brad Brownell is a really good coach. They have the second most wins since 2023 of any team in the ACC. So wow. I think you've really got to respect Clemson, but I see this as like a one possession type of game that Iowa could win if Iowa converts the free throw line and does the little things right, and then put themselves in position against Florida to stage one of the great monumental upsets of the tournament, which is certainly possible, just hard to predict.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. You got to get there. Florida's going to breeze there. They're scouting Iowa and Clemson already. That. Another week to say great things about GameDay Men's Health, our title sponsor. If you're maybe feeling a little blah, it might be from this gross winter weather we're having on spring break for my kids. But it also might mean that you've got low T, which means low energy, low desire to exercise, and low productivity if you do get up the will to exercise. So Game Day Men's Health has been helping people like you and me for years. Even if you're in your 50s like Scott and I are, they can help you with testosterone replacement therapy and a number of other things and help you feel like you are in your 20s again. Testosterone replacement therapy just slowly gets you back to the levels you were in when you were in your 20s safely. They'll check on you. They'll do the blood work, make sure you're not having any kind of side effects. I've never had any side effects in almost 2 years of TRT. It's been great, and it's very easy to get connected with Game Day Men's Health. You can see the banners all around us here on the screen, or if you're listening on the podcast, call them up and get a private, no obligation, free consultation. You can also go online, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. You can also just stop in. One of the locations in Ankeny, West Des Moines, or North Liberty, but beware, they're pretty busy these days because a lot of our legends and listeners are tuning or flowing into Game Day Men's Health. Hopefully you're getting your tee shots in by Wednesday this week, like I am, so you can enjoy basketball Thursday through Sunday and even Monday, potentially for the Iowa women. You can also check them out in Naperville, Illinois. Scott, are you all up to speed now so you can watch some hoops with some tea flowing through your veins?
I got some good tea the other day on Monday. It was a tough day, to get around in North Liberty, and I'm sure everywhere else with this incredible blizzard that blew in mid-March. It's like, where were you like 6 weeks ago? We've got a handle you on Groundhog Day, but we're in mid-March. We're thinking ahead. But it was a godsend for me because I'd been on the road a lot lately. I was in Indianapolis for 6+ days for the combine. I was in Chicago last week until late Saturday night. Then I decided to go to Iowa on Sunday just for the women's part of the bracket unveiling, and so I was feeling a little down and groggy, and so the tee shot really helped me boost my energy levels, and now here I am feeling good and in the wonderful city of Cedar Rapids at our Big Grove opportunity here. And if I could plug them a little bit for this neighborhood brew, I think it's a really nice Pilsner. And as you can hear on the background, they're getting ready for some St. Patty's Day concerts here at Big Grove. And there's also they're unveiling a burger bracket for this weekend's NCAA tournament. Each one of their 5 locations picked one. In Cedar Rapids, it's the Moneyline Melt. And in Iowa City, it's BBQ buckets, barbecue buckets. In Des Moines, the Big March. In Omaha, the Omaha location, the Buzzer Beater. Maybe they're predicting that for the Huskers. And then in the OG in Solon, the Double Double. So swing on out, NCAA tournament time to Big Grove, whether it's here, Iowa City, Solon, Des Moines, and all 5 burger baskets are available at each of the 5 locations.
Dang, man, I'm going to have to try one of those Big Groves. What was the one in Des Moines called? It was like, that was the weakest of the 5 titles, I would say.
The Big March.
March, okay.
It's kind of like when you guys at the Register would call Iowa State the Big Game. Big Game. Right. It's like a laundry commercial title,
Oh, man. Anyway, they do have the best burgers, so glad you're docked in over there, in Cedar Rapids. Let's talk a little bit more Iowa men before we move on to the Big Ten. But like beyond Sturts, like who, they're going to have to play really well. Obviously, you're going to have to get the most out of Fulgaris. I mean, you just got to get something out of him. As I pointed out in my article, they're 12-1 when he scores at least 8 points, and they're 9-11 when he doesn't, or more than 8 points. So all he's got to do is get to double figures, and you feel good about the Hawkeyes. And then, Tavion Banks, Cale Combs, they've been battling injuries this year. Can they feel a little healthier maybe after these 8 days, Scott? I felt like the team looked tired toward the end of the year, and I felt, maybe they're not going to they won't ever admit that probably, but I think that that's a long grind, their first time through it. All these guys, basically, the first time through the Big Ten. And I felt like they looked tired. I think this break will help them because this team, I think they showed us earlier in the year they have some upside, Scott. And so I don't know. How would you feel if the Hawkeyes, how would you feel about this season? Let's put it this way. If the Hawkeyes lose to Clemson and it's just done Friday night, because they've lost 4 of the last 5, how would you feel about the season ending up with losses in 5 of the last 6? Does it take away from a successful year one, or is it just slightly, or like kind of a lot? How do you feel about that?
I would look at it in the aggregate that it's still a quality season. You won 21 games. You beat 3 teams in the tournament in the Big Ten. I think they overall had a really nice campaign, but I think that it's as you can tell, we're having some Irish music here. I'm a German, so I'm averse to. No, just kidding. But I would say though it would feel a little bit of a letdown because I think this team, as you said, it came out, played really well, and it's played really well at times. I mean, you look at the game against Michigan and Nebraska, and even Ohio State that they lost, all of them were very competitive games. And you want to see them win those competitive games and finish that way. I also think, though, as you mentioned, Iowa got exactly what it wanted out of the Drake guys. The other guys in the portal, you've got to give them a really bad grade, an F. I'm sorry, you're going to have to give them an F for Fulgaris and for Brandon Housen. I mean, their productivity is nowhere near what you want. And if you were to get 4 more points per game from Fulgaris and a couple of 3s per game from Housen, I mean, that's going to get a lot of points. But I just think the way they played would have been you would have felt so much better about this team, because you look at their skill set, what they're supposed to be. Housen a shooter, Fulgaris kind of that stretch 4, and instead you're that I would also kind of look at that as a net negative, that whoever helps them get new players in the portal this time around has to be better at that, no question about it. So overall, if they were to lose to Clemson, I would give them a B for the season. I mean, new coach, first year, they're back in the tournament, 21 wins, that's all good. But I also felt like it's a little bit of unmet potential based on what they did in the portal and who did not finish it out.
Yeah, especially when you got a guy like Sturts. You're just not going to have a potential first-round NBA pick at point guard every year. And, can he help take – I mean, I feel like he's got the potential, Scott, to do something really special in this tournament. We've seen him have monster games this year, and usually a lot of times in the bigger games. It'll be interesting to see how Brad Brownell chooses to defend him. They are pretty deep still at Clemson despite the injury, so they're going to be able to throw bodies at him. But I feel like he scored 21 in both NCAA tournament games last year for Drake, and those were low possession games. I feel like he's kind of like he's going to need help. I mean, Cooper Koch, keep hitting those threes, man. Tavion Banks, play great defense. Other guys don't hurt the Hawks, like Isaiah Howard, don't come in there and make stupid plays, Tate Sage, if you get 2 threes, make one of them. You're just going to have to do all the little things right. You're not going to be able to overcome you got to be crisp if you're going to win this game. But I feel like, I don't know, is the fun about this, Scott, and we can let it go here, but is kind of the possibilities, I do feel like with this team, with Sturts, there is the possibility of something special happening. I'm not discounting. Like some years you go into the tournament like, okay, this team's probably not really going anywhere. And I felt that way with the Chris Murray team. I was like, they were on few. They lost to Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament. It was like they're going to play 8-9 Auburn and Alabama.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, I'll go cover it. I'm going to buy a one-way ticket, and I'll probably be back on Friday. And I was back for the women's tournament that year, but against Georgia. And but anyway, like this year, I do feel like there is that chance, and I think that little shred of hope I think for Hawkeye fans is out there. But I also feel like they're waiting to get kind of like pulled back in again one more time.
You're right, and I think Iowa fans really in the last 10, 15 years have always kind of hedged against themselves in these things to prevent the heartbreak, and I think that's really kind of a tough situation. But as you can tell, we're really ramping things up a little earlier than he told me. But I would say that the one thing, the underlying things that really help you in an NCAA tournament, Iowa has struggled with in the past, which is a phenomenal point guard, a great defense, and then shooting, and they have 2 out of the 3. So hopefully you can hear me. I'm struggling to hear myself at this point, but
we'll give you a break here. We'll give you a break while the music cools down, and we want to get to our Under Pressure segment. It is time for our Under Pressure segment as we transition from Iowa to the Big Ten, presented by a partner of Legends and Listeners, Mighty M. When you're under pressure, you need equipment built to handle it. That is Mighty M, which is based in Peosta, Iowa, from pressure washers to air compressors, generators, and compressor-generator combos. Mighty M builds equipment designed to perform when the pressure is on. Mighty M is an industry leader in pressure washers and industrial cleaning equipment that are built for durability, reliability, and performance. Proudly employee-owned for 55 years in our great state of Iowa. We thank them for being a sponsor of Iowa Everywhere. To learn more about Mighty M or to find a dealer near you, visit mightym.com/Iowa Everywhere. That's MITM. Very simple. MITM.com/Iowa Everywhere. Before we tee up the Under Pressure here, I just want to say we just got the alert that the Iowa women's games for the weekend are completely sold out. We'll get to the Iowa women here shortly. So the Hawkeye women will be under pressure. But I don't know if the volume over there has cooled down, Scott. So if it's not, I can do it because I know who we're going to talk about under pressure.
We're good.
Okay, I'll let you. I've kind of taken some of them lately, like with Tom Brands and whatnot. But it's all you. Go for it.
Yeah, I think we're going to transition a little bit to the Big Ten. And to me, the under pressure Mighty T, the under pressure person of the week has got to be Brad Underwood at the University of Illinois. I mean, this is a team that is as talented as any team in the Big Ten. Frankly, if it plays well, it has a chance to run the race to get to even Monday night. I think they're good enough to win that region. They've got scores everywhere, yet they're 4-5 over their last 9 games, and 4 of those losses have come in overtime. So you could look at it one way and say, man, they're only a possession or so away from going 8-1, but then you're like, what are they doing to not win these games? And, they're 24-8. They lost a chance to go to St. Louis right away, which is a killer. Now they're heading down to OKC. It's like, Greenville. They're in Greenville. So, and they would have to play North Carolina in the second round, potentially. So it's, to me, that there's a lot of pressure on him. And then who he's playing in the first round, which is a known quality everywhere here, is Fran McCaffrey and Penn. Yeah, there they are. They're like the first Iowa coaches to ever be buds. Which took a while actually, but there's a lot of respect there, obviously, for them. And Fran's Penn team had a phenomenal performance there in the championship game, a 40-point performance from one of the players. But but Illinois was expected to be really good this year, and they still have that potential. But after a while, you got to fulfill it, right? And I think in this situation, it's if he doesn't perform against Fran, who does know his team or his style of play very well, and he's a good coach, we know that, then it could be, it'll be very disappointing, let's put it that way, in Champaign, and they let a really good opportunity get away this year.
Yeah, and it was kind of funny while you were going. You did say Mighty T, so we're kind of blending Game Day and Mighty M, but the Mighty M movers, we appreciate them. Oh man, we're mixing a lot of stuff here. But
sorry about that. Mighty M. My apologies.
I mean, you do need some Mighty T though from Game Day Men's Health to get ready for that. Let's talk. I think the pressure also is on the Big Ten as a whole. This is the year. Now, yeah, there's certainly a lot of good teams. Arizona's a great team. Duke's a great team. Florida's the aforementioned 1 seed. Houston, I mean, they're in Houston in the South Regional if they get there. So that's another challenge for Brad Underwood and company. But there's legit, I mean, I would say at least 3 teams that can win it all. And I would never discount an Izzo team. So I would even put 4 in there as 4 teams that could win a national title for the Big Ten. And the drought is since 2000 still, since Izzo and Mateen Cleaves won it. But hey, good photo there, Aiden. Nice job. Back in 2000. So the pressure, I think, is on the Big Ten this year. The opportunity is there. Michigan is loaded. Purdue is like Purdue is unfortunately, kind of like Iowa 2022. They're getting hot they're finally getting hot here, and they won 4 games in 4 days over in Chicago. And then, like you said, Illinois, I think they have just as good a chance as anybody to come out of the South if they just play to their potential. I mean, we remember them in Iowa City. We saw them, and Iowa played them within 6, and we're like, God, that's pretty good to play them within 6. Like, that's a really good team. So we know they have the potential, but I don't know. And then Michigan State's a 3 seed. So I think this could be the year the Big Ten does it, Scott. And I think they've got a lot of bites at the apple, which helps too.
I think they got a lot of really good teams, and I think Michigan's the best of the bunch. They did lose to Purdue, but that's okay. It's again NCAA or Big Ten tournament. The tournament doesn't decide what's going to happen next, but I think with Michigan, you like Axel Lindeberg. He's, his shot against Wisconsin was epic at the time. I mean, with 0.4 seconds left to drill that 3 to win the game. Mara inside is great. Caduce is fantastic as a point guard. And not to make it all about Iowa, but Iowa played them really well, and they went at Bennett Sturts. They knew that Sturts was the guy, and Sturts still came through with a really good game. I just wonder, based on when I've seen them, can they kill teams? And I mean good teams when they get closer in. And I think I won't say they have a bye until the Elite Eight, but I think that they're going to roll in Buffalo. I think they're going to roll in Chicago in the Sweet 16 against Alabama or, Akron or Texas Tech or somebody like that. Then when they get to the Elite Eight, this is where I'm really wondering, and it's the Cyclones. I like the Cyclones a lot, and I don't know. Cyclones are a tough team, and Cyclones are mentally tough. They're veteran. They've got a lot of built-up aggression. I think the Cyclones are tougher than they are than Michigan right now. Now maybe Michigan comes back. You look at Jefferson and Lindeberg. I think that kind of comparable. They're different players, but they're comparable in abilities. And I think Mara is a tough matchup for anybody, but so is Milan is unbelievable. Milosevic, just incredible shooter. I don't know that anybody is like him in the Big Ten really. And Lipsy's a great player. I think that is going to be an absolute fight in Chicago for the Elite Eight. It could go either way. As for the other ones, as I mentioned with Illinois. Yep. So much potential, the most potential. They're the best offense in the country through KenPom, through any kind of metrics, but they're soft. I hate to say it, but they're a soft team. You've got to get to be the old Illinois here, which was always MFs out there. They were always tough as nails. Purdue. Love them. Love the way they played in the tournament to get that championship. Braden Smith, they're a gamer. 2 years ago, they went to the national championship game. Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Wren. They've got dudes that know how to get it done. I'm just not real sure when they play Arizona if that's the best matchup for them. Michigan State. I'm intrigued by the East because Duke is in the East, and but they've got some injury issues, and I don't know if they're going to be able to outlast those. For Duke, Michigan State. Michigan State was disappointing to me. They might have to play UCLA in the Sweet 16.
I know,
and I think the two teams that I'm like could pose some upsets: Wisconsin and UCLA. And if UCLA is healthy, if Donovan Dent is healthy, gets back. They're a scary team. They played really, really well in Chicago, and it was just to the point where when Tyler Bilodeau was hurt and left against, I think it was against Michigan State. I'm trying to remember, getting games all mixed up. I watched so many of them. And then Dent getting hurt against Purdue, and as Mick Cronin said, he's like, nah, we're shutting it down. The next week's more important. We have 11 banners. We don't. He even said, he goes, we don't put conference banners, in Pauley Pavilion. We only put national champions. So you're like, all right, I like that swag. Yeah. Go for it. Big Ten tournament championship would be cool for them, but it's not the same. So, so in some ways, I'd almost a healthy UCLA if they play Michigan State again. Donovan Dent versus Jeremy Fears. I almost like UCLA to win that one. and Wisconsin, Arkansas will be a fantastic second round game. But man, I don't know, Chad. I don't know if you got to see it on Saturday, but Austin, crushed it. Austin grabbed 5 straight 3-pointers in the second half. 5 straight possessions with 3-pointers. He was everywhere. Set shots, in transition, everywhere. And it was like, I can't even describe how it was like watching this guy. It was like, and everybody was like, "Oh my God!" They had a 17-2 run, and you throw him on with Boyd and Blackwell. That team is a really, really tough out.
Yeah, good overview there of the Big Ten. I do think I feel like you're right. There's 6 teams that I feel could make a pretty deep run. Throw the 4 I mentioned plus UCLA. Plus Wisconsin. I agree. I don't feel the same about Nebraska. Maybe I should. Can you talk me into a Nebraska run as a 4 seed? They got a 4 seed. They're in Iowa's region, as we mentioned. Do you think Hoiberg and the Huskers, first of all, get that first ever NCAA tournament win? For history here, Scott, against Troy. Didn't the football team lose to Troy one year, or did they just play them tough? Didn't they?
I think Nebraska.
Didn't Frost lose to Troy, or did they beat him? God, I have to look that up.
I think they lost to Troy, but they played them tough because the fans were helpful in helping them play tough.
What do you think about that? I'm going to look it up.
I'm with you that it's like, other than Price Sanford, do they have anything that just makes you go, man, they can really make a deep run? And Sanford's outstanding, as we know. Mass is really good inside. Sam Hoiberg is the type of guy that if he's Troy won in 2018. But
24 to 19 over the Huskers.
Yeah. And if Sam Hoiberg was on your team, you would love him. He's instantly one of your most favorite players of all time. He's not the same player, but kind of that same Nicholas Bear type. That's just tough as nails, will do anything for your team to win, and you got to love that. And so I think Vanderbilt's in there. Vanderbilt's a challenging opponent. They beat Florida by 17 before losing to Arkansas in the championship for the SEC. So, yeah, they could. I think for them, if we want to go with pressure, mighty M pressure, Nebraska might be the same one because they're 0-8 in the NCAA tournament. They've never won one, and
that would be a good one. Yeah. Pressure.
But it'll be interesting, though, if they do get that win and you have that collective exhale and celebration. How do they go, yay, we won. All right, let's focus on Vanderbilt. And can they do that? Can they turn the page? Because Vanderbilt's a really good team, too. I don't know. And you'd hope that they would play well, and maybe they would. But, I feel like we're missing somebody else here. I can't remember.
Ohio State.
Ohio State.
I mean, they're good. They're good.
Yeah. If they might be, if you look for danger signs, first of all, that matchup against TCU is really interesting. But second of all, if you're Duke, you're going, I don't know if I want to play Ohio State because they just barely lost to Michigan. Bruce Thornton is, I called him like the James Harden of the Big Ten. He is a scorer. He's a guy that will ruin your day if you let him. And then with Kristoff getting back, Tally, that's not they could go possession by possession with you, and you could kind of piss you off. And if and they're a national brand, so they're in Washington D.C. Yeah, Duke's there too, Greenville, South Carolina. But if they end up in Washington and third Sweet 16. There's nothing there that makes me go, even if Ohio State upsets Duke, that they couldn't, say, beat Kansas or beat St. John's on a good day, or Northern Iowa. Who, by the way, wouldn't that be awesome? Northern Iowa playing Kansas in the second round. They ought to bring Ollie.
Bring back Ollie.
I know. Ollie needs to make an appearance from Colorado State and bring Mallory with him as well. So, anyway, it's an interesting tournament, Chad. There's just a lot here that here's what ruins our pools, my pool, probably yours, probably anybody like us, is that you start to overanalyze the matchups and see how can this team beat this team and how this team has a chance against this team. And you start to play the game out in your head and you start to analyze it. And ultimately it comes down to one possession. So it's a coin flip anyway. And then you have people like, I'm not going to throw my wife under the bus, but I'll mention this, that one year she just decided
under the bus.
One year, she's going through our bracket in our office and she's like, well, my friends have called me Mary. Her name's Meredith. My friends used to call me Mary when I was a kid, so I'm going to go with Maryland. They won the national title, and here I am going, well, the 5 versus 12, the 12 always wins, and which one is it going to be? And is it, well, this matchup, they're really good in this situation. So it's just away we go.
Well, you think about your national championship pick. We're going to do that before we move to women. But first off, Athletic Brewing Company is America's largest dedicated non-alcoholic brewer and a proud sponsor of Legends and Listeners. Today, I'm drinking an Athletic Light early in the day on this Tuesday. Not that it matters because it's NA, but classically light and expertly crafted, this brew doesn't sacrifice on flavor. Only 25 calories with the Athletic Light. Let me hold up the can for you guys. There you go. And it's crushable on any occasion. Athletic Brewing is fit for all times. As we tell you each and every week, we appreciate their support. Visit them by showing your support at athleticbrewing.com, and they have a ton of products. I've got 6 different kinds in my fridge right now. Just pull out whatever I'm in the mood for. A lot of times it's one of those hazy IPAs, but today just going with the light beer. Never was a big light beer drinker in the day. I kind of like the IPAs, but today we'll go Athletic Light. I know a lot of you people out there are light beer drinkers, especially in Iowa. So, all right, Scott, my national title pick is Michigan. I think the Wolverines are going to do it. I actually think the national title game is in the national semifinals against Arizona. Michigan, Arizona will be for the title, but I do have Michigan over Houston in the championship game. I have St. John's coming out of the East as the 5 seed.
Wow, that's a really good pick because so often it's so easy to go chalk, and then all of a sudden you realize every year there's a 1 seed, there's a 3, there's a 4, and a 7, and you're like, oh, why didn't I see this coming? And my Final Four, I'm probably on the wrong podcast on Iowa Everywhere. I should be on the Big 12 podcast. I have 3 Big 12 teams going to the Final Four. I have Duke out of the East. I have Arizona, Iowa State, and Houston coming out. I have in the semifinals, kind of like you. I think I have one of the great games we'll see again, and that's. I think the Wildcats win it. They beat Houston in the championship, and Brett Yormark can say, hey, our court was the total reason in the Big 12 tournament that we got everybody's eyes on us, and we thrived and prevailed. In fact, I even have BYU going to the Elite Eight, upsetting Purdue.
Man,
so I think
bigger than 12 here. Cheapers.
Yeah.
Get you. Let's trade you over there.
I think Iowa State, Michigan, that one was one that I batted around because I think, but I trust the Cyclones a little bit more than I have Michigan. I've seen Michigan a lot, and I've seen Iowa State obviously in person, and I didn't go to this year. No, I did, but I watched enough of them that I think the Cyclones are just a little bit better.
All right, I know we're going long here, but anything? I know you were hoping for an interview with Tony Petitti the other day, did not come through. Sorry about that. It was tough. Wasn't the best week for you at the Big Ten tournament interview-wise, I guess, right?
No, it wasn't, and there are other things too that, like hotel issues and what have you. That I won't bore everybody with the details, but it's one of those where I've come to realize in my 52 plus years of life that there are things that people don't want to hear about. Is the upsets you picked that didn't quite work out in the NCAA tournament, your fantasy football choices that, if I would have started him, nobody cares about that. And nobody cares about sports writers' road woes. Man, it was not a fun week. It was one of those where I left after the semifinal game with Purdue, and I'm like, I can't wait to go home. This whole thing stinks. But I'll say this though. I did one interview I did do was with Brad Taylor with the Big Ten, the scheduling czar, and this was really interesting. I wrote a story about it on Saturday. I'd like to recommend everybody read it, and that is imagining the future scheduling, not only for the Big Ten but beyond, and some of the issues with West Coast teams and then also other teams. And I think with the Big Ten, with the West Coast teams, a lot of them are quarters teams. Quarters schools. So they finish like December 12th, and then they start their winter quarter January 5th. So you have that wide open time. Why don't you take advantage of it and have teams move? And so that's some of the things that is under discussion, is moving some games up. And then there's also some other things like the one-offs that we've seen, like Duke, Michigan, Virginia, Ohio State. They played in Nashville. Those are going to happen more regularly. And I think so. Those are some things, and then some others that I didn't really know about. I've really never paid too much attention to the basketball draft because they basketball games. But the 3 networks for the Big Ten each draft 13 games, and most of them they have a lot of input on kind of when they're played. They don't necessarily get to say we want it on X day, but they kind of. So if you have a backloaded schedule, that's when the teams picked them. Hey, and he's like, if Purdue and Indiana end up in the midweek, that's because that network picked it for the midweek. Or everybody wants Michigan State, and CBS always wants it to end the regular season, and teams like that. So if they want to move some of those Big Ten games into, say, December, let's say they want 4 instead of 2 or something like that, it's probably not going to be Purdue and Ohio State. Let's put it that way. Or, it might be, Michigan State and Rutgers, Iowa, Minnesota, games that don't quite teams, but anyway, it was really a very interesting how the sausage is made regarding scheduling. So if anybody's interested, I give that a look.
Let's talk about the Iowa women's basketball draw. The Hawkeyes are a 2 seed as expected in the Sacramento 4 regional. Really couldn't have gotten a better draw in terms of, Iowa was the number 6 overall seed. Okay. So they got the 2, and the 3 seed in their bracket, TCU, is the 12. So they were the last 3 seed. South Carolina up top is the last 1 seed. Now, all the 1 seeds on the women's side are tough. Okay, just for the record. So, it's kind of similar, but you certainly didn't want to be in UConn's bracket if you wanted an outside chance at the Final Four. You weren't going to be in UCLA's bracket again. So it was either going to be Texas or South Carolina for the Hawkeyes as a 2, and Texas going to Fort Worth. Not ideal if you're going to be the Hawkeyes. So why not, if you have a shot, go out to Sacramento, where South Carolina's the 1 seed, TCU's the 3 seed, Oklahoma maybe is the 4 seed. I'm not saying Iowa gets there automatically, but as far as the bracket draw itself, Scott, I did feel like it was close to as good as you could have hoped. I wouldn't have minded seeing maybe Louisville as a 3 instead of TCU, but nonetheless, I feel like this is a draw of opportunity and, frankly, a reward for the Hawkeyes. Kylie Feuerbach said this the other day, like, we earned this 2 seed. We did the work we earned this spot. Maybe Iowa overachieved to get to this spot, but they earned it, and now they have a shot to get to the Sweet 16 at home with 2 games on Saturday and Monday, assuming they win Saturday.
They certainly did. I mean, you look at the record and what they did in the toughest conference. They had 12 teams make the NCAA tournament. They earned their right to get here. No question about it. It's just a matter of do they take advantage of it? I think the Fort Worth thing to me is kind of a coin flip. It's not so much the opponent. It would have been fine either way if they would have played where Michigan is, and then they would have played Louisville and even, Texas and Fort Worth. Well, that's going to be tough, just like playing South Carolina anywhere is going to be tough. But I also think for Iowa fans, getting to the DFW is so much easier than getting to Sacramento, California. And people, I won't say people drive, especially with gas prices the way they are, but you can also, it's an easier travel destination. There are ways to get there from Des Moines, from Cedar Rapids, I assume Moline, I don't really know, but anyway, I like the draw. it's interesting the teams that are come to Iowa City. Fairleigh Dickinson has really played well the last 2 years. They haven't lost a game, regular season game in their conference over the last 2 years, which they've won it, and they've won 30 games. I really like, Ava Renninger. She's, the MVP of the tournament for the NEC. They have a 22-game winning streak overall, but, they've also got bombed by Purdue, they almost get lost by 50 to Notre Dame. Even Rutgers won by 10. So, they had a really nice year. They shoot a lot of threes. So I think that in some ways it's kind of like, I don't want to say practice for anybody else, but Iowa at times has struggled with closeouts on three-point shots. We've seen it, especially in their losses to Minnesota, USC to an extent, that was a real problem. Well, okay, now you're working on a team that you're better than. You can make that happen? And then the second game, is intriguing in a lot of ways. Georgia, as we know, they came here a couple years ago with Katie Abrams Henderson, a former Hawkeye. This is, they had a losing record last year. They were 13-19. Now they've won 22 games. They got one of the best players in the SEC. And, again, that is a really difficult league, as we know. 2 number 1 seeds. And a lot of other really good teams. It's right there with the Big Ten. Big Ten may be a little deeper. They're probably a little better at the top. And Danny Carnegie, 19 points a game, which is most for a Georgia player in 20 years. And, 98 assists, just, 84 three-pointers. She does it all. And I think she would be a threat. But I'm not also going to shut down Arizona State or Virginia either.
Right.
I think, they have some clear weaknesses and holes. I mean, Arizona State is up-tempo, obviously, shoots a lot of threes, but, it's not real good when it comes to turnover margin. I think they could be turned over 25 times in a game, whether it's against Iowa or against Virginia in the opener, Georgia in the second round, or certainly Iowa. And, Virginia has some players too. Kamora Johnson, second in the ACC in scoring, led the ACC in assists. It's, each one has a player. Gabby Elliott from Arizona State. I think they all have strengths. None of them are as deep as Iowa. And even though we can see weaknesses with Iowa, their weaknesses are mitigated against their opponent. They just have to, if they play well, they win. If they struggle in a certain area, then that's when it could get challenging.
Yeah, for this Iowa team, it's all about matchups. I mean, that's why they got blown out by UCLA, blown out by UConn. I mean, obviously great teams, but matched up pretty poorly against those teams, and then dominated Michigan twice, because they could match up with their guards. So I like the matchups. I think I like the matchups in Iowa City. Now Georgia's going to play some good defense if it's Georgia, but certainly don't, Cyclone fans listening to this won't discount Molly Miller and Arizona State, making its way to that game on Monday. And Fairleigh Dickinson would have to get like lottery type odds to beat Iowa. 15 seeds in the NCAA tournament, 0-124 all time since the field moved to 64 plus on the women's side, 0-124. So we think about a millionaire lifestyle, Aiden, with the Iowa lottery. You could win $1 million a year for life with the Iowa lottery. Hey, I don't think we've gotten that sound before. I love it. Nice. Second prize is a mere $100,000 a year for life. I could use that too. There are 9 different ways to win, and it is just $5 to play. Scratch, pick, pull, or play your way wherever you play the Iowa lottery, Scott. I think so. As far as this tournament goes, like getting to the Sweet 16 would put the stamp on this season, and then everything after this, that would be gravy. Hawks going to this 26-6. That would get them to 28-6. They're minus 475 to get out of Iowa City. That's heavy favorite odds. Now that said, they play public lines. Maybe Iowa's odds aren't necessarily exactly that good, But wow, how about that? Ava Hayden, honorable mention, All-American from the USBWA. Anyway, so they should get to the Sweet 16, but if they do, to me, everything after that is gravy. TCU matchup, I think, could be problematic, but if they don't, you just have to evaluate how you feel about the season individually. But I think just getting to the Sweet 16 would be the next step for Jan Jensen in year 2.
Yeah, and I'll say I voted for Ava Hayden on one of the 3 teams for the USBA. I thought she had a terrific team or season, and really, you started to see flashes about this time of year last year from Ava Hayden, and I think she really expanded upon those this year. And to me, everybody else has got to go, man, we got to play against her for 2 more years. That's going to be rough, and especially with her and Stremlo and Chit Chat together. I think and then you bring in Valeshko, but specific to this year, I think Jan is, coaching wise, has had one of the best seasons we've seen, men's or women's basketball at Iowa in our lifetimes. You lose a legitimate 3-point threat, as good of a pure shooter as Iowa's had at that spot, and as far as I can remember, because Caitlin was phenomenal, no question, but she was their equal when it came to shooting threes. Taylor McCabe. She was really on, and to have her as a senior, have her out there, she spaced the floor. She allowed lanes to open up for the Iowa's bigs, who are a really good tandem, one of the best in the country, and it kind of closed everything off. But then they struggled for a bit. Then they regathered themselves and played really well. And I think if they can get out of Iowa City, which, yes, I could see paths for the other teams to beat them. Fairleigh Dickinson, let's say that they just shoot lights out. 12 out of 16 from 3. Iowa's trying to match. Iowa's quick shooting the ball. Iowa gets in foul trouble, things like that. Then you wonder, okay, will Charlie Baker make a call to the officials and say, no, we need to keep Iowa in the tournament. But I'm just kidding, by the way. But no, I don't see that happening. I think maybe they can play with them for a little while, and then Iowa will go on a 14-2 run and just really dust them. Georgia, athletic and aggressive, some really good players, could make things challenging like we saw a couple years ago. I think Iowa's the better team. And then whether it's TCU or Washington, again, I think Iowa's is better. South Carolina, I don't think Iowa is better. That doesn't mean Iowa can't win on a perfect day, but it just means, but I'd say out of the number 1 seeds, that's probably the best one to go against. And it is interesting, Chad, this would be the third year, 3 out of 4 years where they would play South Carolina in a really meaningful area of the tournament.
Yeah, right.
And
that would be kind of interesting. You got them in the Final Four game. You got them in the championship game. Now this would be Elite 8 if they could get there. That's a long ways off in Sacramento, but a couple Mondays from now if it happens. But yeah, for sure.
But also I'll say this, that like Ohio State as an 8 seed on the men's side, USC women as a 9 seed has got to be a scary proposition. And I'm not saying Juju Watkins that magically is going to be healed and be able to play. But Jazzy Davidson's a pretty damn good player, and Lindsey Gottlieb is a terrific coach. And that's the type of team that's played a lot of really good teams, UCLA and Iowa and a bunch of other teams in the Big Ten. USC versus USC, because that's how South Carolina calls themselves too. That's probably not the one Dawn Staley would want to see. She'd probably rather see Clemson, because then it'd get their local juices flowing. It'd be like Iowa playing Iowa State. So if it's the Southern California team playing the South Carolina team, they've got a puncher's chance of knocking them out. They just have that kind of team.
Yeah, and in the Sweet 16, should it happen, potentially, Jenny Baranchek and the Sooners are the 4 seed. The top 4 seed, that's another break that Iowa got in this bracket, in my opinion, because South Carolina will have to play the top 4 seed, theoretically, and Baranchek and the Sooners beat South Carolina earlier this year. So, that when Caitlin's first team or the junior year team made it to the Final Four, there was a lot of bracket chaos up top. Iowa was the 2 seed down below. Got to Seattle. They faced the 6 seed and then the 5 seed to get to the Final Four. Now that I don't see the 6th seed Washington beating TCU this time, but hey, you never know. You never know. So that's kind of what that bracket looks like. I did look up the Taylor McCabe thing. It's for my own story, but McCabe finished second all time in Iowa history in 3-point percentage, 40.66% all time at Iowa. Christy Smith is first, 40.75% from 2005 to 2009. So you just, if she had just had a few more games, potentially she would have passed her. Gabby Marshall, third all time in Iowa history in 3-point percentage. Obviously, she didn't shoot as many, but yeah, she was a dynamic defender as well. Scott, do we want to anything else on the Iowa women's side? I know we want to kind of maybe pick. Talk about the Big Ten women also in the NCAA tournament bracket.
Just one last kind of emphasis on Taylor McCabe, because I think she deserves it. She was a really good quality player that stuck with Iowa, and frankly, she could have transferred. So I think in some cases she was. And I saw Christy Smith play. I was working at the Gazette then. She was really good, no question about it. They had kind of a trio of players that, and certainly Gabby Marshall was a 3-and-D player that you really like to have. I think Taylor was probably the best pure 3-point shooter out of that group. I mean, Caitlin, of course, is so dangerous. It's hard to discount anything that she did, but Taylor McCabe was, really, really good. And I think one thing about her that it's been inspiring to see is, when she had this injury, she was able to kind of flush it and move on. And she lives in the Iowa City area, and if you were able to flush and not able to flush your toilets and not able to move on, then you should probably call Ackerman Plumbing. And it's time to discover just how the plumbing industry can be when you choose a customer-first, independently owned and operated business like Ackerman Plumbing. Ackerman Plumbing services the Iowa City area, and we're thankful for their support here on Iowa Everywhere's Legends and Listeners and Instant Iowa. Ackerman isn't only in the residential plumbing business, so your calls matter and will be answered in a timely manner. Whether it's for a plumbing emergency, routine service and maintenance, equipment replacement, or upgrades like tankless water heaters and water filtration systems, call Ackerman. We love businesses that are growing, and Ackerman's looking for another service tech. So if that's you, reach out to Ackerman Plumbing. Visit ackerman-plumbing.com for 5-star residential plumbing services in the Iowa City region.
Well, great stuff on Taylor McCabe. Yeah, definitely one of and she should be around next year. That's kind of the hope and plan, that she'll kind of take Sydney Folter's spot on staff potentially. That's just a potential transition for McCabe next year. So we might be seeing her a little bit next year too. But let's talk about the bracket as a whole on the women's side, Scott. We talked about Iowa's chances to get out of Iowa City and potentially to get to the Final Four. I mean, again, those should not be the expectations for the Iowa women. The expectations, I think, for this tournament are get out of Iowa City. That's the success. Then you're in a toss-up game in that Sweet 16. Right now, the odds are exactly toss-up. Iowa and TCU basically have identical odds to get to the Elite Eight. So the pundits know that that's going to be a tough one if it happens. But as a whole, Scott, on the women's side, I mean, to me, there's probably 5 teams that can win it all, in my opinion. And that would be, of course, UConn. I wish UConn, I mean, it's going to be this way from now to the end of the Oriema era. But I wish that we could see them play like a full SEC schedule or whatever, just because it's really hard to. I mean, I know they're great and they're loaded with amazing players. I mean, they're the betting favorite by a mile to win it all. But I just wish we kind of had a little bit more, some more sample sizes. Now they go out and schedule great.
Oh yeah,
but still, so no. But the Big East is just so bad. It's like what can you extrapolate from that? Like they have great numbers, like defensively off, but like you're playing garbage teams. So, but anyway, UConn obviously the most dangerous one there. That's going to be. They're a lock to get to the Final Four. UCLA is with the other team. I think the only 2 seed that could win it all, I think, is LSU, and they're in UCLA's bracket. I think any Iowa fan that watched UCLA a couple times knows that that's a dangerous veteran team. And then obviously on the bottom half, Fort Worth 3, Texas is the 1. Michigan is the 2. I wouldn't say Michigan's going to beat Texas there. And then South Carolina, probably the 1 on the, has a chance to win it all. But, certainly the cream of the crop. So I would say all 4 1 seeds get there. And the only team I think that can beat UConn is UCLA. So I'll go with the Big Ten here, Scott. I'll go with the Big Ten to pull the upset. But I feel wary about it because they have LSU as the 2. If they had any other 2, I'd feel a lot better about UCLA.
I'll add a team that I think can – there's a couple of teams I think that can rattle some cages. I'm not saying win it all, but I think that can somehow upset their way into some really dangerous territory. And number 1 is Duke with Kara Lawson. They're a number 3 seed in with UCLA and LSU. That's the type of team that could upset LSU because they're really good. They started off so bad, and yet then they came on so strong. I think that they've got a chance to really, make some, have a good tournament. And then, Vanderbilt with Michaela Blades is so good that, you could conceivably, if she has the most amazing game of all time, possibly give UConn a run. And then the best second game possibility for me it'd be on Monday is Ohio State Notre Dame. Jelani Cambridge against Hannah Hidalgo. I think could, in Columbus, Ohio State Notre Dame, the postseason. We've heard that before. I think that would be a really, strong opportunity. I guess UConn, though, you're right. Obviously the Big Ten could have taken UConn over Rutgers. Big 12 tried to get UConn, but the school shut it down. That would have been interesting. I don't know that it would have mattered. Maybe they lose a game. Those leagues are, 2 games maybe. But I think that they are in the finals. I like UCLA to get to the finals. I probably like Texas with Madison Booker. I think that they're a really deep, tough team. And then I'll probably go South Carolina to beat Iowa in the Elite 8. I think they're just better. And then I'll go UCLA and UConn, and I'm going to go with you on this. I trust you, and I think I'm going to go with Lauren Betts, even though, Corey Close has kind of struggled over the years. Now that she's gotten past that, I mean, they swept the entire Big Ten, this regular season and the tournament, decisively. I think they can match up. And I think that Kiki Rice and Lauren Betts and her sister Sienna, I think they can get it done. I'll go with the Bruins, Lady Bruins, if that's what they call them.
Yeah, I wonder how many Big Ten teams. Let's do this real quick, and then we'll sign off. How many Big Ten teams on the women's side get to the Sweet 16? All right, let's go. There's so many teams in the field, but really only UCLA is probably the close. The only real slam dunk here. Michigan would get NC State or Tennessee, in Ann Arbor. I like Michigan probably. Iowa, obviously, we talked about. Those would be the 2 seeds. Ohio State, the 3 seed. Minnesota's an interesting 4 seed, an interesting host. And then you got Maryland and Michigan State as 5 seeds. Illinois is a 7. Who am I missing? We talked about USC.
Washington, Maryland.
Washington is the 6, right.
Maryland's a 5. Oregon's an 8.
Yeah, that's what Texas. So I don't know. How many get there?
USC.
Over under 4.5.
Oh, I think I'll go more than that, and I'll just kind of go through the bracket just on the Big Ten version. On the Maryland is playing North Carolina, and that historically is a massive rivalry. ACC, and remember, Brenda Freese won a national title in the ACC in the same conference with North Carolina. I'd go with Brenda Freese getting to the Sweet 16 and upset North Carolina. I think Ohio State's a little deeper than Notre Dame this year, so I think that they win. Illinois loses to Vanderbilt. UCLA, of course, I think wins. Minnesota at home, potentially playing Ole Miss. I'll go with the Gophers. I think the Gophers could get that done. Nebraska's in the play-in game. First round game against Richmond. Maybe they win that. I don't know if they beat Baylor. I certainly don't think they beat Duke. Then Oregon, it's coin flip whether they win their first game. Definitely not against Texas. Let's see here. Michigan, I think, gets out of it, the Ann Arbor region. USC is the wild card because I think they got to go to Columbia, but they also got to play Clemson in Columbia, which I know that's enemy territory for Clemson. But it'd be like playing Iowa State in Iowa City, and you get a combination of a lot of fans there. I still think USC is a road warrior. I don't think they beat South Carolina, but man, I think they play hard. I think it's a close game. Michigan State will not beat Oklahoma in Norman. I think Reagan Beers ruins their day. Washington, I don't see them winning in TCU, and I do see Iowa holding serve in Iowa City.
All right, there you have it. Should be fun. NCAA Wrestling Championships also start Thursday. I'm gonna predict a good tournament for the Hawkeyes. I think they finished fourth. I'm gonna be bold here and say they finished fourth in the nation. Maybe they'll extend their national title bout streak to 36 years, and I'll say 6 All-Americans for the Hawkeyes. So
wow,
there you go. All right, that'll do it. Enjoy the St. Patrick's Day over there in Cedar Rapids, Scott, and you two out there. To our listeners, this is Chad Leistikow, Scott Dochterman saying so long. Enjoy March Madness, everyone.